Welcome to another episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the live video podcast for people who are looking for a deeper conversation, perhaps unmuted, about the films they watch today. Now, tonight, Jim and I continue our 2024 Oscars Best Picture Contenders series with Canadian playwright Celine Song's auspicious feature filmmaking debut, Past Lives. Now let us give a big welcome to my co-host with the most, my Borscht Bro, Winnipeg's very own, drum roll please, Mr. Jim Chaboyko. How are you, my friend?
Good.
Are you waiting for that applause? Is that it?
Yes, yeah, that's my cue. Where's the fanfare? Just had pierogies tonight, a matter of fact. So, yeah. Gave that checks anyway.
Yes, it does. All right. You know what, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into this flick.
Certainly.
Now, here's the log line for my IMDb. Nora and Hai Sung, two deeply, Jim, connected childhood friends, are wrested apart after Nora's family emigrates from South Korea. 24 years later, they are reunited for one fateful week. Although I think it was only a few days, but week, sure. As they confront notions of love and destiny. Jim, why don't you start us off with your spoiler-free take on this flick? Sure. Is Past Lives a see it or a skip it?
Well, first of all, happy Valentine's Day, folks. This lines up nicely with we almost never do romances, so this is kind of a new one for us, I think. But not that there's not romance involved in anything, but see it or skip it? Yeah, absolutely see it. It's a patient, very slow building movie, but bittersweet, something that Mike Pence might call a horror movie. But yeah, I thought it was quite well done, and almost went against a lot of the romantic movie tropes, which was nice.
Right. Well, for me, Jim, I am going to say see it as well, with a caveat, with a big asterisk, especially if you're someone out there who has maybe a bit of life experience. You may find yourself incredibly frustrated with these characters. That said, they're so well drawn that you're compelled to watch. Not so much for a train wreck, but a fender bender. Because at the end, you may also have the feeling of, what was all that for? But yeah, it's still, you know what, Jim? It's still a see it for me. Yeah, with that out of the way, first of all, folks, if you like this kind of thing, especially the deeper spoiler dive conversation, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to ringy-ding that bell.
Did I knock down my lighting? Retrieving the bell. I'm all unmuted, right. Yeah? Just
yes, you are.
We're both okay, good.
We both are unmuted now.
Good. We can edit that out in post.
All right, let's get into the spoiler zone. And yeah, Jim, let me start off with you right off the bat. What do you think the point of this film was?
I've been thinking about. I literally just finished it after work this afternoon, so it's still pretty fresh, rattling around in my brain.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it had to do with the Korean notion of inyon, of destiny, or that your paths have some crossed at some point in the past, and perhaps in the future, that everyone's sort of interconnected. But The question is the degree to which they're connected and that sort of thing. If you want a little closer, it was basically a romance without any of the. I've heard the filmmaker describe it as a romantic movie where people actually talk like people usually do. Not There's no great monologues. There's no sort of running through the airport kind of scenes or anything like that. They're kind of at times both articulate and stunned and awkward and sort of uncertain. And so I think that
Dishonest?
yeah,
No.
yeah. But well, I was wondering that too because it's got a very particular way of handling its chronology. In that you sort of like I was thinking to myself, is she married now? They don't spill it out. They don't have the year that right on the screen. So yeah, after a while you catch on, but you sort of have to figure out the rhythm of it. That there's 12 years and then 12 years and then 12 years that pass between the encounters. But yeah, no, I think it's a little bit of an anti-romance romance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean myself, I agree with you that it is sort of a is it an anti-romance? I don't know. You know what actually, Jim? This reminds me of a couple of films, including another a film by a Canadian filmmaker.
Hmm.
I like movies about a protagonist, Nora, who's kind of a little detestable. But it's also a Canadian film. This is something I've complained about before on the show. And when, in general, about a lot of Canadian films, and this kind of follows that sort of upper middle class obsession with their romantic lives, their jobs, but it's one of those things, Jim, where it's like it's trying to give a melodramatic arc to everything, but the stakes are so low,
Hmm.
and these people are so self-involved and so wrapped up in their own nonsense um, that you can actually deliver a line. And this is why I still say it's a see it. The characters are drawn so well, and the filmmaking is so solid, very, how would you call it, very play-like, but
Hmm.
still so solid that I'm still watching after a line like, oh, what was it? I think I wrote it down, but I think I can repeat it for memory. Well, this is where I ended up. And this is the Canadianness of it, the upper middle class Canadianness of it. It's like, oh, a poor playwright in New York City, in Brooklyn. They're not even bridge and tunnel crowd. Like,
Well, they move back. They live in Brooklyn before it's cool, and they move back to the village, I think, in the
yeah,
current.
it's just it's moments like these where I'm like, off, just off. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I was being facetious earlier about the star-crossed lovers, because nothing is actually keeping these people apart. There's
Hmm.
nothing other than I, I think there's like three truly honest things that are said in the whole film, and one's about Nora's ambition, which
Hmm.
isn't a good or bad thing, but it does sort of drive the action and what she does and who she marries and everything else is like, maybe not so crass, but a bit of a, well, this is my relationship with you is in the way of my ambitions in this area. Um, I didn't quite buy. At times, it plays around it. It sort of lies to itself and maybe to us about fate. The Indian thing, I didn't buy it all. Never once. The one of the few things that I think she was being honest, even though she was trying to manipulate somebody, is when she said to who will be your future husband. It's a thing Koreans say when they're trying to seduce someone, because as she's seducing him.
Yeah.
because it's kind of what Nora does. Nora's
Mhm.
a seducer, and I don't mean it pejoratively, or if I do, only a little bit,
Mhm.
if that makes any sense. But yeah, I'm like, she's a little terrible, but so's Arthur.
Mhm.
You know, when he isn't literally getting shoved out of the frame, and Hai
Yeah.
Sung, it's like, oh, buddy, get your head out of your ass. Move on with your life. Even your friends, like deep in the third act,
Yeah.
and he's, oh, I'm going to New York for vacation, which is perfectly reasonable.
Mhm.
You went to New York for vacation.
Yeah.
Like,
I was on one of those
but
boats about 3 months ago, or no, 6 months ago. But
but his buddies are like, you're not going for that girl, are you? Like,
yeah,
they're not buying that Indian crap.
same buddies he's been drinking with for 12 years, by the way, and presumably for years
Yeah.
before that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, there's this. There's
Yeah.
after he's in the army. There's school buddies. They know him.
Mhm.
Like he's probably the most emotionally honest. Him and Arthur.
Mhm.
Nora's the one who's always playing it close to the vest, but he's, you know, somewhat emotionally honest. Does his best to be that way, but there he is going to New York. Just, well, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like,
What does he say? He says, "I'm going for rest and relaxation." I don't think anybody goes to New York to relax. You're pretty much. I mean, I'm not a good example. I've been accused of being a tourism N N blank ZI, but yeah, it's not a relaxing place. Anyway,
yeah,
that's his
no, you're
line,
not.
and he's going to stick with it. So
You're not going there to chill. But even the way he delivers it,
yeah.
his friends, and this is where, yeah, you see Song's skill, you know, and
Hmm.
probably from years of, you know, living that miserable, well, I guess I just ended up here in New York City, being an active playwright.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even, and it's funny actually, like this is what I mean. I'm wondering whether it's on purpose or it's you know, unintended, like that unintended subtext, Jim. But
Hmm.
I gotta ask you, you know,
Hmm.
and ask anyone who's watching, whether it be now live or later on a rerun, is like there seems to be something about this movie about agency.
Hmm.
I saw Celine Song in an interview. She says, "This happened to me. This doesn't happen to people. It's not, I was walking down the street and there
Hmm.
was Hai Sung, and we're like, what? You live here? I ended up here. No."
Yeah.
It's in the modern world. And yes, they're both children of affluent middle class, you know,
Hmm.
the upper middle class, technocrats or artists. They get to go where they want to go. She moved from a decent passport to a Canadian passport, which is pretty solid. Like, I mean, you and
Hmm.
I have both traveled under it. That's a high
Yeah.
powered passport. And then
Hmm.
she gets the most high powered one of all, the United States passport. No wall is keeping her from anywhere.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is about what she wants, it's her ambition, it's her direction in life, which isn't a bad thing.
No.
But it's certainly not, nothing happens to a person like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
whether it be Nora or Celine Song. I guess people are coming up, I needed this. Why did you need this? What need did you have for this nonsense? They were 12 years old.
Hmm.
And this is what kills me, Jim. I'm honestly, about this flick, I'm just kind of blown away. It's like I'm not watching a train wreck, but I'm watching a really low stakes melodrama, but yet I'm watching. I want to
Hmm.
see how it plays out, even if it's in the it's a weird sort of will she, won't she, should she? And it ends on the lamest note where there's that schmuck Arthur saying, all right, baby, let me comfort you as you flirted with this boy you kind of got into a phone thing with a dozen years ago,
Mm-hmm.
who you knew when you were 12. I don't know, like, what am I? What do you think? What
You know,
what is your take?
I was looking at I guess maybe last week I was looking at some YouTube what was I don't think I was looking directly for past lives, but I was looking for an interview or something to that effect. And I couldn't find them today. I looked for it again, and there was a bunch of dudes with various YouTube hot takes saying, "Oh, this is the worst movie. He's such a cuck," and that would literally be the title.
Oh,
Of course, when I tried to find it today, I couldn't find a single one of them. But I mean, it I think the Arthur character realizes that she's got this thing that's currently obsessing her. If he says no, I forbid it, that's I mean, good luck with that. I don't think that's going to make things any better. So he
Nora
basically
is not a girl you
no.
forbid to do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
You'll
So I
find
don't.
yourself on the receiving end of an email in 12 years
Yeah.
saying, hey, how's it
Yeah.
going?
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I don't think I don't think it's that. If he got all. And you can see that he's not super pleased with the situation, but
No.
at the same time, I think he realizes this is something that she, it's not an easy thing to be from two different places. So I think he says, well, I'm going to have to ride this one out. So when's he leaving again? I think is one of the lines. Is he handsome? And she stumbles badly on the answer. She
Oh,
says,
she
well, I think
is.
he can be considered handsome by other people,
Yeah,
but
but I knew him when he was 12.
at the
As
same
we
time,
see this stunning example of Korean manhood.
yes, yeah,
And he's sweet.
mhm,
Like,
yeah,
and I think Arthur he's got his own sweet quality as well. It's
mhm.
just he's the one. If we reverse the roles, Sung would be all weird and insecure, and they would have dressed him differently.
There's a
Arthur
shot.
looks like a schlub and plays video games because they
Mhm,
want to make sure that he looks like the guy on the back heels, the one who's
yeah.
off balance.
There's a shot in the movie, and it's not from above, but it sort of mimics the Annie to my mind. And I thought, either am I insane or am I racist or what? But there's that famous Rolling Stone cover from 1981 of a fully dressed Yoko Ono, and John Lennon is he's completely naked, and he's sort of clutching to her, as if to suggest, like he's literally clinging to her. And
Yeah.
there's Arthur's wearing clothes in the shot, and it's from a side view, but it almost mimics that cover. He's even on the same side
Yeah.
of the woman, and she is fully, and he's got his leg up, and he's got his arms around her, and I think that's sort
Please
of
don't leave me.
yeah, I mean that's not what they say in the scene. I think they say,
but
yeah, but it's physically that kind of metaphor, I think,
yeah.
and I so I
And Nora,
I don't know if I'm right on that, but it sort of harkens back to that cover,
oh, excuse me.
in my mind anyway.
Well, we don't know what was in the cinematographer and the filmmaker. Like,
Mhm.
we don't know what that team, exactly what they're thinking. But, and I did not make that connection.
It's pretty
That
brief.
said, no. I made many connections in that moment.
Mhm.
This is the thing. I can be frustrated and everything about these characters and the choices they make, but I feel it's real and everything is curated for us, right?
Mhm.
Everything is so well drawn. Each frame, okay, I don't want to go too far. Every frame a painting, but
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get
everything
it though.
seems really purposeful.
Mhm.
And one of the things that struck me in that moment, Jim, like I didn't make the Yoko Ono John Lennon connection, although I would not be surprised if you asked them or somewhere on the internet, so, one of the crews, oh yeah, that's exactly what we're going for.
Mhm.
Hey, glad you noticed it, Mr. Jim is it Jim from Canada. But I did, as he's clinging to her, she's smiling. She's got this kind of weird smile, especially in these kind of weird, almost quasi confrontational moments.
Mhm.
We saw it in when they're coming back from a visit to her family in Toronto,
Mhm.
and at the border. And she stands to the side and just smiles as Arthur answers all the questions.
Yeah.
More and more frustratingly, because, all border security are jerks who think they're saving the world.
Yeah.
It's like, can you just collect your taxes, do your toll stuff, and let's all move on with our lives?
What do you do for a living? We're writers. What? We're writers?
So how are you related? We're married. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she just is off to the side, not quite connected with that smile. It's the
Mhm.
same smile she has there. It's a smile she uses at times, almost like, is it? And I'm fascinated. Is she being coy? Is she nervous? Although I don't think we ever really see her nervous.
Mm. Yeah.
What do you think?
She's a really interesting performer, and I noticed her first. She was Jake Johnson's girlfriend on The New Girl for about a 3-episode arc, and she was kind of interesting then because it turned out that she was the female version of a tech bro and was rich or something to that effect,
Oh
and
yeah.
and she had a real interesting kind of almost that same sort of ironic presence. And I've seen her in other things. She was in Russian Doll. She was in that horrible morning show on Apple TV. And I've often, it's
Tell us
just
how you
my
really feel, Jim.
little aside there. It's about people's resumes. Fascinating, but the yeah. So I've often thought that she was kind of interesting, but that's her. I think that's one of her traits is this sort of detached, ironic kind of presence. But I think there's a lot sort of going on behind the eyes. So I think it's kind of interesting. But I have to say I did like, for me, what I found was the most uh-oh kind of moment was at the very start, which shows the three of them at the bar, and the voiceover says, in her voice, says something to the effect of, "What would people think if they saw us right now?" And then I thought, oh, this is sort of, is this going to carry on through? It seemed to be kind of aspirational. Like, wouldn't you want two men in love with you? And it seemed to be a little bit narcissistic as well. I think it eventually veered away from that.
Well,
And I know
you know what,
that
Jim?
image,
I think
was one of the first, according to the filmmaker, that image was the sort of the springboard for the rest of the movie. That's
Yeah.
what she was in that
Oh.
situation, and then she went from there. That was the original inspiration for it. I didn't love the start though, but
I
it did get
loved
away.
the start.
Oh, did
But
you?
I read it differently. I didn't think that was Greta Lee. I didn't think that was Nora's voice.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was, and what I loved about it is I thought, and there's a part of me that now wants to look it up because I really believe that was kind of a great way of a third party observing these three going, what's their deal? What's
Mhm.
going on there? Because it's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I thought we had a brief view of how these people are being viewed.
Mhm.
And it's a couple at a bar kind of looking at other bar people as people do and going, what do you think their deal is? That's kind of weird, isn't it? You got three
Yeah.
guys, they seem connected. Are they married or are they those two together? I don't know. Let's watch. And that's what I
Yeah.
mean. But you're not watching a car wreck. You're
Mhm.
watching a fender bender. An
Yeah.
avoidable fender bender.
Mhm.
Slow motion. Hey, let's get out our insurance now. Oh, this is going to ruin my weekend.
A 24-year long
Honey, our
fender bender.
rates are going to go up.
Mhm.
Yeah, like this is what I struggle and I respect about the filmmaker, because these people don't look good in it, but it's not misanthropic either,
No,
you
no.
know. Although
It's
I
funny.
gotta admit, again, I having been around a little, it's like I'm like, I don't know if I was somebody out there watching this Jim, watching this movie, or saying to someone who's thinking about watching this movie, it's like if they were insecure in their relationship, I'd be like,
Oh, yeah.
go, because this may trigger some positive action.
Mhm.
You know, if you need the air cleared, this may be the thing. And if you
Yeah.
can't clear the air, well, you know, maybe that's telling you something too. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know what you mean about the watchability of the movie, and I was thinking about this too. Is that yesterday was the Super Bowl, and it's a lot of these sort of this, a lot of screen time yesterday was watching all kinds of stuff, watching YouTube videos and stuff like that, sports, big sports events, and then I turned this on for a few minutes, and yeah, the just the skill of it, just the you become aware of how much uh different different, I guess, types of art are for different have different purposes, right? So once I turn this on, it's kind of like, there's a few shots, and I thought this has some emotional texture that all the other stuff I was watching all weekend didn't have. And it sort of, it's like, okay, this is why we watch movies again. This is sort of a bit of a sort of a cleansing thing anyway, ability to
a palate
concentrate.
cleanser,
A
as it
little bit,
were.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The writers' retreat is in Montauk, by the way. So there might be some future matchup with No Hard Feelings because it took place
Well, but it did
in the
make
same
me think
town.
of No Hard Feelings. It did. Not not as much the Montauk
Yeah.
reference as how, again, it's here are the petty obsessions of upper middle class folks, world traveling upper middle class folks. And then I think about the characters in the more on economically on the edge characters in No Hard Feelings, and I go, I'm far more sympathetic to their lives,
Yeah,
because that's
yeah.
the other. I think one of the things I struggle with in this film is I have very little sympathy for everyone, even Arthur. Um, I'm just like, I don't know, Arthur, you married her. You know, how much of why he sticks it out is because this is the same in bed. He's putting all his insecurities out there. She is doing not the minimum to reassure him, but slightly below minimum.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's like, you're not going to give up. It's been 12 years for us. And they're in their mid 30s.
Hmm.
And she says, well, I'm not going to give up seeing auditions for some guy. And it's like, wow. It's like, there you go, Arthur. She ended up with you
Yeah.
here. And even he, like, this is the thing. There's this weird sort of destiny thing going on here, but there's no honest conversation. They almost have an honest conversation, but even Arthur doesn't kind of go, well, well, would you have just hooked up with the guy who came? It's probably. She was at the right age. She had just
Yeah.
kind of broken up on a phone thing,
Hmm.
and you weren't there. You were there. Guess what? That's how life works,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so but it's all so low stakes. Again, it wasn't a wall, even the wrested from each other. No, it's weird the way these people kind of re-narrate their lives. It's no, our parents were moving. What is she going to do? Stay? Get a job at
Yeah.
12?
Yeah.
No, you You
Yeah, they
go.
didn't really. They sort of almost said it was like her choice to go, but no, the parents were packing up, moving to Canada, and this is a beautiful little moment. They were playing Leonard Cohen in the background in that
I
scene,
did not
as if to
catch that
prepare
play,
them.
but
As if to prepare them. How are we going to get used to this new country? Let's put on some Canadian music.
you know
Uh,
what though? That would be what a Korean filmmaker who's probably rolling into town
mhm.
because they got some academic job, some
Yeah,
fellowship or whatever, like some high powered thing.
they don't
Because
really talk about it, but
they
yeah,
kept
I
their,
suspect.
it looks like they maintained their upper middle class lifestyle, even grew it enough
Mhm,
that their kid, because like I mean Celine's song, she went to Queens,
mhm.
you know. I guess okay. We managed to get into Queens, and then graduate studies at Columbia.
Yeah,
Not people. So yes, she has ambition, but she
yeah,
was not rested. It wasn't
no,
screaming, holding each other. She couldn't even like it's even at 12. She certainly has that ambition is there,
mhm.
um, but also that bit of I don't know, unwillingness to be honest. Uh, she won't tell him.
Oh,
I'm talking about Hai Sung now. She
yeah, yeah,
cries because he got the first.
yeah.
He beat her on a test.
Mhm.
She usually beats him on the test, but she loses, she cries. But there's a part of me thinking maybe she's crying because she hasn't been able to tell you that she's moving. That they
Yeah,
even go on a date,
mhm.
supervised by mothers because they're 12,
Yeah,
you know. And even there, Hai Sung's mother's like, what? What do you mean you're moving?
yeah, yeah. By the way,
So,
and the goodbye scene too, which they show on all the, if there were still lobby cards, that would be one of them because it's an image
yeah,
that you
the
see all the
thumbnail
time.
you
It's
rejected, Jim. Yes, I'm aware.
you know what, I like that the thumbnail that we did, and it happens to be the thumbnail of the carousel in Dumbo, the Brooklyn, right by the Brooklyn Bridge actually, but yeah,
You mean, not this one, but
yeah,
the one that's on the actual thumbnail
yeah,
right now on YouTube. Yes.
yeah, yeah. But the goodbye scene in Seoul when they're 12 is completely unsentimental, so whereas she may be sort of sad to leave her friend or whatever, they just say okay, bye, and then he goes up the hill and she goes up the stairs,
Yeah.
and
But I,
that's
I,
it.
I
Like,
kind
it's
of,
not even, there's no acknowledgement that I may never see you again, that kind of thing.
I kind of, the way I read that scene, Jim, was again, her, neither there's willingness to kind of go, hey, I'm kind of pissed you didn't tell me.
Hmm.
What, you going to say goodbye? Something? Anything?
Yeah.
You know? And then, of course, it's kind of weirdly remembered when she's outside the cab as he's getting in the cab
Hmm.
or in the Uber. And all of a sudden, we cut to the very same scene, but it's at night.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Lighting's
That's right
different,
too.
but it's
Yeah.
two little kids, but it's like this mush, and it's like we're flirting with unreliable narrator territory,
Yeah, that's right.
as they're editing their memories about and I'm going to put air quotes on it because it's not a relationship. You were 12 years old, and then 12 years later, you got into a phone thing. I don't know about you, Jim. When I was in my early 20s, I got into a phone thing with this American girl.
Yeah.
And then when I was going to go visit her, she kind of got freaked out. I'm like, okay, I
Oh.
get it. I won't hang out with you. I'll hang out with somebody else I know there. because I had already bought my plane ticket.
Mhm.
And, I'm a young man kind of going, well, hey, there are other girls.
Yeah.
I
Her
do.
name was Jennifer Lopez.
No, I had a wonderful time. And then me and that girl did end up having lunch together, and we had a nice time, but I had a wonderful time. The point I'm trying to make here is even I, in my early 20s, was like
Mhm.
kind of, oh, well, moving on.
Yeah.
And even this Inyan thing, I kind of push back on because it's like, yeah, every culture has their fate, destiny. Plato wrote about that perfect, that soulmate, that other half, literally.
Mhm.
Like, so this is not just something unique to Korea. It's particular take, some of the details that come around it, but it's only one thing, and what's otherwise, they all seem pretty, they're all urban,
Mhm.
modern, secular. Like, yeah, I do. I think Nora's, with her, she was most honest when she said it's something Koreans say when they're trying to seduce someone. And when she was in bed saying, I'm not leaving my play for some dude. Not her husband of
Mhm.
7 years, relationship for a dozen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is it's the play's the thing with Nora.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, heck,
That's a
it's the
good one.
same woman who put a
Uh,
piece of tape and a name on a mug in a collective house.
I noticed that touch. Yeah, I said there's some nice touches. There's the fireflies at night, and the fact that, and they don't really call attention to it, but yeah, she's got her little bit of masking tape says Nora on the cup, as if drinking somebody else's cup, or just a random cup would be the
Well,
worst thing in the world. But
well, I
yeah,
think
no,
Nora's very much what's mine is mine. That's mine. I have
mhm.
chosen, just like she went through and I got the best room. You got the shitty room. You know?
Yeah,
When her mother called her out, like this is when do we first learn they're going to Canada? Is when right after she was crying ostensibly about the test, but I really think it's like, hey, I like this boy. I'm just unable to tell him this thing's coming down the
mhm.
pike. But she also has no problem taking the name her little sister chose as her English name.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, Nora's like a lot of ambitious people. They know what they want and they take it.
yeah, yeah. Although, I the one note is later on in the movie, in sort of the third act, or not sort of, but in the third act, he says, "Oh, you always wanted to win the Nobel Prize, and then it was the Pulitzer, and what is it now?" And she goes, "Oh, I don't know. I guess
I
a Tony."
said
So that
Tony.
sort of, yeah, that sort of aspect of it, like but she couldn't answer him right away. She had to sort of think about it. So I think, the real thing for her has become the work. Exactly, the play's the thing.
Yeah.
Is that not so much, she just got, she has a position now, and she has some clout, and she's building on her,
Again,
her momentum, I guess.
this
Yeah,
poor waif.
but that shows a little bit of a change. What's that?
This poor waif cast upon the waters, stumbled into playwright in New York City.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, where will the world take me next? What next will happen to me? And it is. It's like off, lady. Nothing happens to you. You happen to
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess they're,
You happened
I
to
guess.
Arthur. Arthur may be, how did this happen to me and will I lose it? Because he does not seem to have the same relationship agency. But I also think that's the way
Mhm.
Nora likes it. Nora likes relationships that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, she's the one that says, yeah, maybe we shouldn't talk for a while to Hae Sun, and
Oh yeah,
she's the one that sort of calls
she
it,
started
and
it
so she's,
and she ended
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. But
Cause
the
not again, because there's this great wall. We will never. No, Haesung, go live your life. You'll find a better girl. No, it's I have this residency. When are you coming to North America? Oh, so you have a job thing. Well, I have a residency in Montauk.
yeah, yeah.
As happens
Well,
to people. Just happens to them. I got hit by a car today. Oh, that's terrible. I got hit by a residency in Montauk.
and I guess that's sort of the battle of the wills, kind of, is that neither
Was
of
it a
them are
battle?
finally, well, not so much, but yeah. The funny thing too is that nobody talks about children don't even come up, and these folks are sort of in their mid 30s at this point. So that's not even having a family isn't even consideration at
Hai
this point.
Sung and his girlfriend, the
Oh, were they
girl looks
talking
like
about
he
it?
made in
Oh,
China.
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they having in a weird. And let me ask you this, Jim, because that
Hmm.
scene was interesting. So they're talking about it. We hear all this chatter as they're walking along a path along the river,
Hmm.
uh, East River, West River. I don't know.
East River, East River.
Okay,
Yeah.
as they're walking along the river, and it all continues behind this huge bush. Now that could have actually been. I don't know if it was a curated choice. If it was, it's kind of a weird one.
Hmm.
It's sort of a transition moment, but I was like, kind of, is this on purpose? Everything else seems so on purpose.
Yeah.
That one was like kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's a bit of a busy spot. I mean, if you go there on a Sunday morning, it's pretty quiet. But yeah,
So like a
otherwise
production
it's
problem, maybe like this is the
maybe,
path you
yeah.
get. Hey, I thought you
That's
said you're going to cut down that tree.
uh,
Yeah, well, we aren't.
there's a lot of sort of restaurants and stuff, and that kind of thing, and it is a great place for shots of the Brooklyn Bridge, and it's on the Brooklyn side, of course, and yeah, it's tons of stuff have been filmed there. By the way, there's shots from uh Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams,
Fisher
Fisher King.
King.
Fisher King. There's a couple shots right near there, and there's a
Yeah,
little bit more of
but
a car wreck back then, but yeah, no. So it's yeah, perhaps it's a production thing, but yeah, yeah.
um, before we get into final thoughts, I did want to come back to the question I first asked you. Notwithstanding what the director said, because I always kind of mistrust the filmmakers a little bit, a healthy bit of mistrust, not
Hmm.
cynicism so much as sometimes it.
Let's go sneer at the DVD extras.
Well, no more. Sometimes the filmmaker doesn't want to be honest with you, and sometimes, a la Top Gun, the original Top Gun, just escapism. I don't know. The American Air Force really knew why they were there, which
Yeah.
means Bruckheimer, Simpson, Cruise, you knew why you were there. It's a
Hmm.
propaganda piece. Um, but then there's sometimes where even the filmmaker doesn't know, or doesn't know half of what they're doing. They're just getting their art piece out, and it's very focused and everything. But my question
Mm.
remains: what was the point of this movie? Like, because at the end, I got to admit, I'm like, as compelling as it was to be on it, I'm like, what were the stakes here?
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering, in a few weeks, am I going to think about it the same way I think about American fiction? It was like, oh, that was clever, but why did I watch?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, I just finished watching it today, and often sort of figure it out a couple days later. I'll get some sort of eureka moment in the shower, or something along those lines. But yeah, I don't know. Some people have mentioned like a sliding doors kind of thing, but I really think I mean, in my own life, I've gone back and forth between Vancouver and Winnipeg all my life. Less so in the last third of my life. But when I was a young guy, mom lived in one province, dad lived in another, and so that sort of not as dramatic as Korea and North America, but there were definite sort of feelings about wanting two different places to be on the same patch of earth, if that makes any sense. And everything that goes with them and all the people and that kind of thing. So anyway, I do think it's about being from two different places
Okay.
in a way, and the way that sort of affects you, because the situation, if she grew up in New York and knew Hae Sung in New York, and then for whatever reason they got separated and she married Arthur, it would be a different movie because they'd all be in the same
Wrested
city.
away.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it might be more of a traditional romance. But yeah, I genuinely think it's sort of about a woman from two different places. That might be me reading into it a little bit, and as well, I think it does work as almost an anti-romance. I think there's one kiss in the film. There's a lot that's implied, and a lot of closeness, a lot of vulnerability, and a lot of
Mhm.
a couple moments where you think, "Whoa, what's going to happen there?" But yeah, but not. I don't. It doesn't take a lot of those typical routes that some of the
What do you
the
think
more
she is saying
melodramatic
about?
romances.
She certainly. You might be right, or you are right. Never mind. You're not a might. You are right. It is an romance. Let's say, um, or that's part of it.
Mhm.
But what do you think she's saying about relationships and how you interact in them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think they're. I mean,
Like, what is the emotional arc of this story? What is the yeah? What is she saying about how it's like here we get a bunch of real behavior,
mhm.
or it feels real. They're so
Yeah.
well drawn.
I think that there's an element of fragility in all the relationships in this movie, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's not even so much. It didn't really occur to me like I don't know how this is going to end. I mean, I didn't, which is always a good thing. But uh, yeah, I think she's saying that y- there are choices that people make, and sometimes they can be. Hmm. They can be odd choices, but there's still, even if you choose them, there's still a fragility there. She said in an interview, which I just re-listened to since I finished the movie on CBC, that she wanted the impression that 50-50 she could that Nora could go either way. And so that obviously played in a
For
part in the
me,
she
that
way she
failed
filmed it.
for
But
me. At no
yeah.
time did I ever think. And
Mhm.
you know what, Jim? Actually, it's interesting. That would be an area where I'm like, I don't know if she's lying to us or she's lying to herself,
Uh,
but no way is Nora ever going with Hai Sung.
yeah. Yeah,
I
no, she, to like I don't think she would not be the same person that she is in New York
yeah,
that she would be in Seoul. And I know she's not a shrinking violet either, so I don't think she'd take to it too or if she did, it would last about 6 months.
yeah,
she'd be
yeah, yeah.
she'd be back.
Well, Arthur's wondering if she's
Yeah. Oops.
is she coming back?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I'm just gonna go out to the store for some milk.
I now that said, especially art is replete with stories of a selfish partner who
Artists often.
Yeah. Well, that was
Yeah.
my
Okay.
that was my point.
Okay.
No one ever said Picasso was a very giving man, and
What a sweetheart. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. And they find those people who are like provide that emotional support that they feel they need as they see through their ambitions. And as I describe it that way, that is every businessman ever. You know,
Mhm.
um, even
Entrepreneur. I love
entrepreneur,
that. Yeah.
con artist, scammer. But I'm thinking of a perfect moment. Maybe this is, maybe what's interesting is we're seeing this, and I'll call her selfish for the purposes of my argument. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. She's in an interview, and she early on in their relationship, she was saying, she was promoting her book. She's like, yeah, I had to kind of make a decision because this guy he wanted to do things, which means there are things that I wanted to do that I was not going to be able to do. I would have to put on the back burner. And that was a decision I had to make. So of course, I suspect Barack and Michelle Obama are way better at communicating those things.
Mhm.
But what is the difference between Barack Obama and Michelle Obama and Nora and Arthur, other than Nora is not a very good communicator? And so she finds guys who will provide that, but they never really, like, I mean, you could have thrown Arthur a bone, woman.
Yeah.
You could have thrown him a bone, but that's not quite the way she works in a relationship. And this is the thing. This is why this movie is good,
Mhm.
as infuriating as it is. Because I've
That
met these couples at dinner parties where it's like, oh, wow, that's up. But
Mhm.
they feel real, self-involved and a little whiny
well that
as
that
they
scene in
rough it in New City. Sorry. I
no
don't
no.
know why New York had to be beeped.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
this is where I ended up.
Yeah. There's the scene in the bed.
Is
There's a
it?
scene in bed that they have
Yes.
that's a great scene, and because it's fairly lengthy, and it goes from, they're talking seriously about their marriage, and then they get
Yeah.
sort of jokey, and they sort of, to relieve some of the tension, they start laughing, and then it gets serious again, and it sort of goes on for a bit,
Like a
and
real,
yeah, and
yeah.
it's a great scene. I could see theater students doing it, as a two-hander, for drama class years in the future. But yeah, I mean, to answer the other question, one of the differences between the Obamas and this couple is that Barack didn't write a novel called Boner. If you noticed the one that when he's at the book signing, which by the way was at a McNally Jackson in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
McNally Robinson's
Mm,
daughter who moved to New York City.
yeah, so there's a definite Winnipeg connection there. Well, very slight.
Yeah.
A location that's on screen for about 6 seconds, but
Owned by someone who has been in Winnipeg.
yes, yeah, briefly lived here for
Yeah,
20,
briefly lived
30
here.
years. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, like so many Canadian wealthy, right?
Mhm.
They build their wealth in Canada to take it to grow up. Pre World War II is everyone wanted to grow up and go to England.
Mhm.
After World War II, especially later into the 60s, it's you
Yeah.
grew up and go to the States.
there's no sugar. We're gonna go back. Yeah, exactly.
All right, Jim, let's I think it's time for final thoughts here. Here, let's give it a bit of spin. Final thoughts. You go first, my friend.
Sure. Yeah. Well, having, had this conversation, yeah, I might want to revisit this one. I mean, the price is right; it's on Prime. But yeah, I might want to revisit this one in the near future. My daughter hasn't watched it, and I guess I could get away with. There's nothing sort of untoward that happens, and she's my adult daughter. Might want to watch it with her, but I think it would sort of be up her alley. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
You guys could talk about how many opportunities for relaxation there are in New York City.
6 a.m. Let's go. Yeah. No, there's yeah, it's a great New York movie. There's a lot of great locations and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's one that I think I'll probably want to revisit. And it's it's revisitable, I think. I think it'll be a good rewatch in the near future. I think I covered most of what I had in my notes here. Was there anything else? No, I think that's yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Well, for myself, Jim, yeah, it's a weird one. Like I am going to over the next couple of days. I've gotten into the habit, Jim. I have a film diary now. I took this idea from you, and so every movie it gets 2 pages, and I rewrite the log line based on what I saw. I talk about the emotional story, the themes, the big questions, which is another thing where I'm like, oh, what big questions are being talked about here? And Inyan is not it. But I will revisit it. I want to kind of get the structure right, what the real story beats were. But yeah, at the end of it, maybe there is a Michael Jamin, a TV writer. He talks about the final beat should be joyful defeat. And maybe there is a joyful defeat, even though she's crying. Maybe it is that there is a bit of a moment at the end where she's like, I really have to let this plaything I've had and this man who's taken up rent-free space in my head and this Indian shit. I got to let it go. I have to let it go. It's time for us to move on. For me to commit to the relationship I have. She does break down crying in Arthur's arms, and Arthur does comfort her. So it's not joyful, but even sometimes a sad cry can still be cathartic and releasing.
Yeah.
It's acknowledging a moment and a change and a transition. And I certainly didn't read the end as tragic.
No.
So
no. And you know what? Like last week, we were talking about the holdovers being about letting go. I think in a little bit, and I'm thinking this earlier, and I just totally skipped over it. I think this too is a little bit about, or the holdovers was a lot about letting go. I think this one as well, is also to some extent about letting go.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, all right, everybody. First of all, please give us a like, a subscribe, and a ringy ding of that bell. And oh yes, here. There we go. Wave your bell, Jim. We'll get this in sync. All right. Well, we'll practice that for next time, folks. Yeah. And Good night, everybody. Over some to the side, there'll be something YouTube thinks you should watch. I'll put our playlist of all the 2024 Best Picture Oscar contenders. I'll put that playlist over here, and then, of course, you can subscribe down there.